my channel. My name is Martine, and if you are new here, I do videos on Vedic astrology mainly, but also with some tropical insights, and I focus on both relationship and natal astrology. And if you like this video and you would like to see more content from me, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to my channel. Also consider clicking the notifications bell if you want to see when I will post a new video. Also, if you are interested in a private reading, I do readings in astrology on a variety of topics ranging from relationship readings to career to transits for 2-3 years, or solar return charts or predictions for 1 year, etc. You are free to email me at the email address that I will leave in the video description, and I can send you a pricing list and reading options and any other details that you might require. Also, I want to mention that I have started membership options on this channel, and the short of it, just to give you the short perks that you will get if you choose to join the membership section, you will get 1 extra video per month for each membership stage or tier. So for the first tier, you will get 1 extra video per month. For the second tier, you will get 2 extra videos per month, so you will have access to level 1 and level 2 videos. And for level 3 or third tier, you will get 3 extra videos per month. The level 1 and level 3 videos are going to be on a variety of topics, so basically anything related to astrology, but it will be content that is not shown on my regular usual videos, right? So this is members only exclusive content, and it can range from, tips and tricks on how to read a horoscope to, I haven't done this yet, but I plan on doing maybe members only astrological synastry for famous couples, for instance, or the analysis of famous people's horoscopes, but then I can also get into divisional charts, etc., etc. So all kinds of things. The level 1 or second tier of membership options is especially related to synastry astrology topics, meaning relationship-oriented astrology. So this could be things like how to discover which kind of partner archetype is right for you according to your horoscope, or it could be, again, different characteristics, whether you're going to have a good marriage according to your horoscope or a less than stellar marriage. But you can find more concrete examples in the lists that you will find in the video description, because I have added the playlists where you can already see all the videos that I have posted in each members section. So yeah, you can see what videos you will have access to from the ones that I have already done. But I will continue to post, like I said, 1 extra video per month for each level of membership. And in addition to that, in the members only section, you will have access to members only polls, and you will also have priority when it comes to getting your comments replied to on my channel. And you will also have stickers that basically show up next to your username that show that you are a member, and a couple of exclusive emojis. All right, so that's pretty much all the perks that you can have as a member on my channel. If you're curious, you can check the video description for more details as well, or you can click the join button under any of my videos to also see the prices, because the prices will be shown in your local currency. All right, in addition to the members only section, I also have a tarot channel, and I post there semi-regularly, and I will be linking the tarot channel in the video description as well as in the pinned comment. It's called Martine's Tarot. So if you are curious about tarot, if you're into it, maybe check out my channel, maybe subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening to this intro. And now I'm going to get straight into today's topic. Hello and welcome to my channel. Welcome to another video from me. So today's topic is one that has struck me pretty much through divine intervention, quote unquote, in the sense that I have not planned this topic. I just suddenly got the urge to talk about it after analyzing a lot of this transit, which I'm going to be talking about, which is Saturn and Satabhisha Nakshatra. Well, Saturn transiting through Aquarius, but specifically through Satabhisha Nakshatra, which is part of sidereal Aquarius. And I do realize that, well, maybe not. Of course, it would have been nice if I had started talking about this before Saturn actually entered Satabhisha, or before it even entered Aquarius. But I did not consider this topic, and maybe I also didn't have all of the observations and the knowledge that I have gathered in the meantime if I had talked about it like 2 years ago. And actually right now this transit is pretty much going to end. I mean, Saturn going through Aquarius, it's going to come to an end, thank Jesus, next year. Next year at some point in April or May, I think, if I estimated correctly, if I remember correctly, because I did check at some point. So it's going to, after Satabhisha, it's going to move into Purva Bhadrapada, which is going to be a whole different can of worms, but I won't be talking about that for now, at least, maybe at some point in the future. However, when it comes to Saturn in Satabhisha Nakshatra, there have been some common themes that I have noticed about this transit for pretty much everyone, also like these general trends in society. And so I thought that I should do a video about this. And this is not just about trends that I have noticed. It's also about the symbolisms, the energy of Satabhisha, the suffering that is being shown in Saturn-dominated fields throughout the world and in people's horoscopes. And this is because if you have watched the video where I talked about Satabhisha Nakshatra, and if you haven't, I will be linking it in the video description so you can check it out. But the general idea about this nakshatra is that it teaches you things through suffering. And it's especially connected to the medical field as well. The translation from Sanskrit also can be translated as 1,000 physicians to the gods. Roughly around that line. Maybe it's more than 1,000 physicians. But in any case, it is connected to the medical field, to healing. But it's also connected to suffering. You know, I've said this in that video. It's actually similar to Chiron from the tropical astrology, if you are familiar with it, that archetype of the wounded healer, you know. So Satabhisha oftentimes shows people, I mean, especially the people who have this nakshatra prominently placed, it shows people who have suffered in some way, and the way that they have suffered usually is shown by the planets sitting in this nakshatra, other planets that are involved, and the house that is activated, etc., etc. So it has to be seen from the perspective of particular configurations involving the nakshatra. Although it is generally connected to medical issues, it can show suffering in a bunch of, you know, not just a bunch of, but all kinds of fields, you know, depending on what houses and what planets it's touching in the horoscope. And the people who have this nakshatra prominently placed in those areas, as signified by the horoscope that where Satabhisha is active, they tend to become these kinds of wounded healers. They tend to learn through their own suffering. Oftentimes, because of their suffering, they get this urge to investigate something. They get the urge to understand what is happening in that particular area. And in so doing, they become more and more knowledgeable about all the different things that maybe have gone wrong. So over time, they acquire a lot of knowledge that helps them to teach others about healing themselves, or healing particular areas of their lives where this nakshatra is active, like I said. And so a general theme that I have noticed about Saturn transiting through Satabhisha is, first of all, well, if you just look at the symbolism of Saturn and then Satabhisha, Saturn stands for career, social status, also state rulership, politicians, basically all forms of figures of authority, organizations. It's also traditions, you know, things that have been done a certain way over long periods of time. Saturn is also the elderly, old people. It's also, in a purely medical sense, the bones of the body, minerals in the body, and the feet. Okay? And Satabhisha, like I said, it shows suffering and teaching through suffering. And what you might have noticed, I don't know if this is true for everyone, but I've definitely noticed this in my life, and I've seen it with a lot of people. I've also noticed general trends in society right now where people are suffering tremendously because of their careers. And it's not a pointless suffering. There are actually small progresses happening, pieces of progress happening. Like, for instance, I have seen, like, just in the past, like, 6 months or so, how people start to discuss old wounds, old problems, systemic problems at the workplace, in organizations, especially hierarchical structures, which is a very Saturnian field, So any kind of hierarchical structure is a Saturn-dominated thing, whether it's in the clergy, whether it's in the state, whether it's in a corporation, whether it's in a hospital. Any kind of hierarchical structure is ruled by Saturn. So all of these things that are ruled by Saturn right now are being held under scrutiny, because of the Satabhisha energy. And all the kind of systemic old problems that exist in the Saturn-dominated fields have been brought to light and are being brought to light by Saturn transiting through Satabhisha Nakshatra. So, and this theme of old wounds is actually, like, very general. So I'm very curious as well to hear your input and your thoughts about how you feel about this. And by the way, I should have mentioned this from the beginning. So Saturn has transited through Satabhisha since December the 25th, 2023, until roughly April 23rd, 2024. It also went back into Satabhisha on September 9th, roughly September 9th, 2024, and it will stay there until roughly January the 18th, 2025. So it has been through Satabhisha on and off multiple times, well, twice so far. I think it may have gone into Satabhisha even before December 2023. To be honest, I have not looked that far behind. But what you see happening, a lot of scandals in the healthcare, which has been, the health field has been ongoing since the coronavirus. A lot of things have been brought to light, but during these times when Saturn is in Satabhisha, there's a lot more talk of solutions, of how to fix things, mental health crises, again, going bad. And last but not least, Saturn ruling the bones, the minerals in the body. And by the way, also because it rules the bones, it rules the teeth, right? So you may have noticed that when Saturn was going through Satabhisha, and even right now, that there are more issues connected to bones, back problems, posture issues, coming to the forefront, teeth, dental works have to be done, feet problems, coming to the forefront. So all of the Saturn-dominated medical issues might be brought to the forefront, especially if you have had, like, issues that you have neglected connected to these things. You will find that when Saturn hit Satabhisha, suddenly the pain was unbearable, or you've had to have some work done because of, underlying older issues. But the theme of old wounds, so for instance, it could be, again, depending on the area that Saturn and Satabhisha is transiting in your horoscope, but it could be connected to all kinds of things, right? An area where you're basically going to be forced to rethink things or revisit old wounds, connected to those particular areas. And this is because you are supposed to look at a different way of doing things, find a healing towards that particular area, right? Find a remedy, a different way, a different solution that maybe you haven't tried. Let's not forget that Satabhisha is ruled by Rahu, which is about quick solutions. It's about pragmatism. It's about being unorthodox and thinking outside of the box. Pretty much not a friend of Saturn. You know, it's like the opposite of Saturn in some ways. Rahu, you know, where Saturn is tradition, Rahu is a nonconformism and, you know, the rebel without a cause, worst case scenario. So yes, this is a transit that will make people rethink how they are doing things in a particular area of their lives. So I'm just going to go through a quick description of what this would look like for every sign. And you can look at this from the perspective of the ascendant, but also from the perspective of the moon sign. When it comes to the moon sign, it's more about your inner world, about your mental and emotional health, and your sense of happiness and fulfillment on a, you know, emotional plane. When it comes to the looking at Saturn from the ascendant, it's more about, well, everyday occurrences, it's actual physical, palpable issues that you have to look at in these particular fields, maybe even health issues, right? So if you have an Aries ascendant or a moon, it means that Saturn basically is transiting in the 11th from Aries, right? So Saturn is going in Aquarius during Satabhisha. So this is to some extent going to be true throughout the time when Saturn is going to be transiting Aquarius, but it's especially true for Satabhisha, okay? So I'm looking at Satabhisha Nakshatra in particular while it's transiting these houses. So for you, as an Aries ascendant, the pain that is going to be unearthed here during this transit is pain connected to older siblings, popularity, friends, gains from career. That's another thing. So let me give you an example of what this could look like. If you have had any kind of conflict with an elder sibling, you will find that during this transit, you have to revisit this theme. Somehow it will be unearthed again, and you will have to look at it and try to find a solution. It could be that once again, you might have to deal with friends that are betraying you or friends that are disappointing in some manner. Or again, you might have to revisit a relationship with an old friend and have to look at, you know, what is not working there. Somehow there will be some kind of pain connected to this area that will prompt you to look for a different solution to the way that you used to do things. And gains can also be gains from career. So maybe the gains that you are getting from your career are not up to your expectations, which can in turn make you think about whether you want to do things differently to make more money from your professional life, for instance. If you have ascendant or moon in Taurus, it means that Saturn will be transiting in the 10th house. So it's going to be in the 10th house in Satabhisha during this time, which will bring about pain of career, social status, and or father and authority issues. So any kind of old wounds that you have connected to these areas of life will be brought to the forefront during this transit for you to take another look at and potentially find a solution and it won't be pleasant. Like I mentioned in the beginning, it will be some kind of a pain that you will revisit that will basically come back to haunt you during this time. Yeah. So in particular, you can see that, you know, with career, that's obvious. You know, you might be put in a position where you are, especially if you have the moon in Taurus, because as I mentioned in the beginning, the moon is more about, or the moon or the Chandra Lagna. So taking the moon as the ascendant and looking at where Saturn is placed by relation to this moon. So if you have moon in Taurus and you have this transit right now, it means you will have this transit right now, basically. This means that you will have to face the fact that maybe you're not happy in your career or the things that you're not happy about when it comes to your career. So there might be some healing that has to take place in the sense that maybe this is a time to become true to yourself and pursue something you're really going to be interested in. And then, of course, when it comes to the father figure, it could have been unearthing old wounds when it comes to the father figure, okay? It could also be authority, like ruling powers, government, state, taxes. So any kind of, you know, old issues that you may have had connected to these areas of life, they might come back to haunt you. Another thing with social status, okay? So you might be put in, again, if you have old wounds connected to your social status, you might be put in a position where you have to question this, or you might have to question your sense of pride when it comes to your standing in society, and think about whether you are putting out the kind of work that you want to put out in the world, or maybe you feel like you're not on the right track. So anything to do with career, like I said. If you have ascendant or moon in Gemini, this means that Saturn is going to be transiting in 9 places away from your ascendant or moon sign, right? Being in Aquarius in Shatabhisha Nakshatra. And this will unearth any kind of pain or old pain that you may have had connected to travel, education, beliefs, gurus, or teachers. Especially when I say education, I'm talking about high-level education, master's degree and above. So during this time, you might, I don't know, if you have had some kind of a beef with a religious figure, for instance, a guru, a teacher, a professor or something, you're going to once again be faced with that same old pain and ask to look for a different solution. Or you're going to be moving closer to a solution. Doesn't mean that you're going to be solving the issue, but you will be one way or another be forced, shoved into these issues again as a way for the universe to help you heal old wounds connected to these areas of life. If you have ascendant or moon in Cancer, this means that Saturn is going to be transiting 8 places away, right, in the 8th house from your ascendant or your moon sign. And in this situation, it will unearth issues connected to in-laws, joint finances with your spouse, or your own finances also, but when it comes to using other people's money, such as loans, and issues connecting to finances, taxes, money in general, but especially other people's money. Somehow the money from other people that you're somehow relying on, right? But transformation, psychology could also be a thing. So if you have any wounds connected to these issues, you're going to be forced to revisit them. This could also be about research. This could also be about foreign languages, 8th house. So it could be, for instance, if you've had any arguments with your in-laws, you're going to be put in a position where you have to deal with this issue again, or maybe the in-laws are going to bring up some old wound and you're going to have to learn how to deal with it. So one way or another, you're going to have to face these issues during Saturn's transit through Satabhisha Nakshatra. If you have ascendant in Leo or moon in Leo, this means that Saturn is transiting 7 places away from this ascendant or moon sign. So this will unearth issues connected to marriage, partnerships, business, especially partnership-based business, popularity or lack of popularity, lack of popularity, or it could be justice, equality as well. Like how equal are your partnerships, your relationships, but especially partnerships, because this is like one-to-one relationships when it comes to the 7th house. The 7th house is also about sexuality, and it's also about endings to some extent. How this may sound kind of specific and maybe a little bit woo-woo, but it has to deal with how you ended something in the past, So I don't know, it could be a bad relationship, right? Maybe during this transit, you are going to have to deal with a ghost of Christmas past, in the sense that, an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend is going to show up in your life, and you're going to have to deal with the hurt feelings connected to how that relationship ended. So it could be anything, but basically any old wounds connected to these areas that I have mentioned that are ruled by the 7th house, those are issues that could be brought to the forefront in your life, and you are going to have to revisit them and find different solutions. If you have ascendant or moon sign in Virgo, Saturn is going to be transiting the 6th house away from your ascendant or moon sign. So this will unearth issues connected to your health, enemies, competition, servants, or pets. and also your day-to-day activity, your daily routines. So, for instance, if you are the kind of person who has a bad daily routine, like, I don't know, anything that is basically not conducive to you reaching your long-term goals, you might be faced with having to change this. Like, somehow the universe is going to shove you a little bit harder against the wall so as to pressure you to change something about this routine. Or, for instance, I don't know, just to give you an example, maybe you quit smoking because, heaven forbid, you had a lump on your lung like 10 years ago, but now in the meantime, the lump disappeared, so you feel comfortable taking up smoking again. And now suddenly something else happens, like, I don't know, you start coughing. This is like a very random, but also very specific example, just to give you an example. So it's kind of like Saturn is going to shove you into rethinking your old habits, but also connected to an old wound, you know? It could be connected to pets, you know? I don't know, like maybe you get a pet that reminds you of a previous pet that you mistreated, for instance, for some reason. Obviously, it could be connected to your job as well. Sixth house is also your job. It could also be enemies again. Another thing with enemies, for instance, it could be that you're going to have to face an enemy that you thought was in the past or that you have not had to deal with in a long time. And the universe can somehow shove you into this situation for you to find a better, healthier way to deal with this person than you did the last time. Same thing with competitions or naysayers, right? If you have ascendant or the moon sign falling in Libra, this means that Saturn will be transiting the 5th house from your ascendant or your moon sign. So this will unearth issues, old pains connected to children, early education, not early education, well, 5th house can be around college level, college master's level, somewhere along those lines. Creativity, authenticity, romance, love. So, and also any kind of things connected to education. So, for instance, when it comes to creativity, right? Let's say that you have old insecurities, old wounds about your ability to be creative. And you, on top of that, maybe have a creative hobby or even work in a creative field. You might have to be put in a situation right now where, again, you're going to have to face your doubts and your fears, or maybe have to deal with criticisms again to kind of reinforce you, to build up your faith in yourself so as to pursue your creativity even further and learn to ignore the naysayers. But again, this has to be connected to an old wounding, okay? So if you were someone who in the past, gave up on a creative hobby because you were afraid of criticism, this could mean Saturn is bringing you back in a situation where, again, you might feel like you want to pursue a hobby, and Saturn will throw you the criticism as well to test how you will handle it this time around and for you to find a better solution to it. This can also be about teaching, which is maybe more specific, as 5th house is also teaching, not just, it's anything connected to the educational field, dealing with kids as well, but it's also connected to teaching, yeah. So it can be about, I don't know, let's say in the past you've had students that told you they don't like your style of teaching and you just ignored their complaints. So you might be put in a similar situation this time around to see how you are going to fix it. Another thing with authenticity, let's say, it could be, maybe the last time someone challenged your authenticity, you gave in and chose to betray yourself so that you could get social approval. And now Saturn is going to shove you back into a painful situation so as to kind of nudge you in the direction of standing your ground and, being true to yourself, basically. If you have ascendant or moon sign falling in Scorpio, this means that Saturn will be transiting 4th houses from the rising or the moon sign, in which case this transit will unearth any kind of old wounds connected to your mother figure, relationship to your mother, your homeland, your physical home, early education up until high school, vehicles as well. So this would be the kind of transit where when it comes to the physical home, you know, if there's anything you have neglected, this will be the time when something's gonna, you know, something is gonna give in the negative sense. Like if there was a leak that you ignored in a pipe, this is the time when the pipe is gonna burst or something. If you, again, with vehicles, it can be, I don't know, a problem, again, either that you have ignored or was not solved properly the first time, might give you grief again this time around, so that you can finally fix it or find a better solution. Again, with the relationship with the mother, you might have to revisit some old wounds when it comes to your relationship to your mother. Fourth house is also actually emotional satisfaction and happiness in general. Okay, so Saturn in Satabhisha transiting this placement, honestly, is not an easy situation. But of course, a lot will depend on individual configurations in the horoscope. Still, I would say that, you know, being a pretty heavy transit, you will have to deal with the, you know, the ghosts of Christmas past when it comes to relationship to your mother side of the family, early life environment, early memories. Again, you might have to deal with people that you thought were buried in the past and you thought you might never have to see them again, and now some way, somehow, you might remember about them, or I don't know, they might show up in your life one way or another. Okay, if you have ascendant or moon in Sagittarius, this means Saturn is going to be transiting 3 places away from the from the Sagittarian rising or moon, which means that the pain that will be unearthed in your case is anything to do with communication, intellectual ability, intellect, willpower, courage, entrepreneurship, independence. So, let me give you an example. This could be if you're someone who has, let's say, a speech impediment, and it's something that you have not had any issues with, but maybe you still have some traumas connected to this, or something that you haven't fully healed connected to either the impediment itself or the source of it, the trauma behind it. You might somehow be shoved in a situation where you will have to deal with it again during this transit when Saturn is in Satabhisha Nakshatra. If you are dealing with, let's say, issues of courage, maybe there were times in the past where you were put in a position where you had to be brave, but you gave in to your fears. You might be again shoved into a similar circumstance so that Saturn will test your courage one more time, so as to give you the chance, but also the nudge into developing your courage. And the reason I say nudge is because, remember, Satabhisha is connected to pain. So the way that Saturn is going to make you change this time around is by increasing the pain, so to speak. And so therefore push you to choose differently than you did the last time, maybe because the stakes are going to be higher, for instance. And just to give you an example, I don't know, let's say you have the chance of choosing a job that takes you to a foreign land or a different city. Last time you had this opportunity, you didn't take it because you were afraid to leave. This time around, maybe Saturn is going to make it so that you have been unemployed for several months and you are in financial dire straits, and you're going to have to be pressured into taking that job because you have no other choice or you cannot wait anymore. Just to give an example. I know it sounds really negative, but again, I'm telling it, don't shoot the messenger. You know, I'm just telling it like it is. In communication, it can be all kinds of things. I don't know, maybe your boss pointed out that you are not signing your emails right, and then that boss disappeared. Like, and you got another boss, nobody has been nagging you about your emails for a while, you didn't change anything in your habits, but now you get a new boss that is nagging you about the same issue. So this time you will have to change the way that you sign your emails, because this boss maybe is more of an a-hole and is threatening repercussions if you don't change it. Just an example, right? Giving concrete examples here. If you have ascendant and or moon in Capricorn, this means that Saturn will be transiting in the second house from the rising or the moon sign. And in this situation, it means that this transit is going to unearth issues, old pains connected to family of origin, savings, fixed assets, self-esteem, maybe even diet, okay? So self-esteem, especially, is also connected to the second house. It's about possessions and what you value. So, for instance, again, if you have had conflicts with the family of origin, this is the time when one way or another you are going to have to revisit those conflicts. Maybe you're going to have to visit your family of origin and have to deal with the same conversations that you have had the last time you saw them, even though you thought that these conversations were never going to be discussed or brought up again, but somehow you're going to have to deal with the same thing, and Saturn is going to push you to find a different solution, a better solution this time, you know, or a better approach to how you deal with these conflicts. When it comes to your diet, again, I don't know, maybe like some years ago you got a health scare that you had really high blood sugar, and for a while you gave up snacks, you gave up soda, and, you know, until your blood sugar regulated, and then now you have gone back to your old habits. This time around, you might get an even bigger health scare that will make you think twice about, you know, not sticking to the good habits. Okay, there can be a whole bunch of different examples, but anything connected to the second house that is some kind of an old pain, you will have to revisit that during Saturn's transit through Satabhisha. If you have moon or rising in Aquarius, right? Saturn is going to be transiting through your first house. This is Saturn in the first house. This is a rough one. Well, they're all rough in their different ways, so it's not rougher than average, but this is basically a situation where old wounds might be unearthed connected to your sense of confidence, your body image, your physical health as well, because the first house is the physical body, and your fitness. It could also be connected to a wound that you have towards your place of origin. And the first house is especially connected to your literal place of birth. So it's not just the homeland, it's the place of your birth, the city or the town that you were born in. So it could be that during this time, you're going to have to visit your place of birth, and I don't know, old memories, old painful memories are going to come back to the surface, and Saturn is going to force you somehow to deal with them in a different way. It's going to, well, by increasing the pain, by increasing the suffering, you will somehow be forced to find a different solution to these old pains. When it comes to body image, same thing. I don't know, just to give an example, maybe you were someone who has struggled with an eating disorder in the past because, I don't know, you were bullied, for instance, for your appearance, right? And eventually you were able to overcome that. Maybe you moved away from the place where you were bullied, you came across good people, or you just healed yourself, you went through therapy, you changed your eating habits, you haven't had any kind of eating issues in a long time, and now you might be again placed in a similar circumstance as the one that has led to you developing an eating disorder. Like maybe you're going to be bullied for your appearance or criticized in a nasty way. Maybe you're going to have a narcissistic boss that picks on the way that you look. And so Saturn, therefore, is going to shove you in a similar circumstance to test you. Okay, to see how you deal with your pain this time around, to make sure that you find a better solution this time, you know, instead of turning to self-harm, which is what eating disorders are, basically. You know, learn to stand up for yourself, for instance. Learn to develop a stronger sense of confidence, and therefore just not take it to heart. Just a few examples, can be a bunch of things. Okay. If you have, last but not least, ascendant or moon in Pisces, this means that Saturn is going to be transiting your 12th house in Satabhisha Nakshatra. So in this situation, you might have old wounds being triggered connected to anything to do with isolation, the subconscious, the dream world, sleep issues as well, sexuality as well, spirituality, or religious figures, including religion or religious figures, foreign cultures, especially faraway lands, belief systems. Okay, so in this situation, maybe you're someone who hates to be isolated, or maybe at some point in the past, you spent a long time in a period of isolation and you absolutely hated it. You felt ostracized or you felt cut off from society. This time around, you might be placed in a similar situation. Some kind of old wound will be triggered connected to these circumstances. So Saturn is going to test you to make sure that you come up with a better solution, that you deal with it better than you did the last time, one way or another. But it depends, okay? It doesn't have to be with isolation. It could be a bunch of things that are all connected to the 12th house. That's why I named a few. Could even be with a spiritual guru. Like, just let me give an example that could really match the 12th house here. Let's say you were someone who, at some point in the past, you trusted a guru or a religious leader that turned out to be a fraud, right? And you were so quick to believe them because you needed that sense of belonging, that sense of community, or because you just deeply wanted to believe that there was, a higher power ruling everything, and you were quick to jump on the bandwagon without properly vetting this person, without really analyzing them and seeing whether they are the real deal. Maybe you even ignored red flags in your desire to really belong to a spiritual community. And so this time around, Saturn might throw you into the ring, this, the same ring. Like, maybe all of a sudden you will find this very seductive spiritual teacher that sounds like exactly what you want to hear, and you find yourself lured in once more. And Saturn is going to do this to test you. It's going to make sure that you are discerning, that you are healthier this time around, and don't give into your instincts of, I want to have a community, a sense of belonging, and I'm gonna go throw myself head first into the first community that promises that, right? So one way or another, you might be revisiting some old wounds, like I said, connected to something related to the 12th house. So this has been it. As a conclusion, basically, the general idea is you will be forced to revisit old wounds, most likely to find a solution, to find a better way to deal with similar circumstances that have hurt you in the past. And it will be most likely painful, okay? So some kind of a pain is going to show up in these areas where Saturn is transiting in Satabhisha Nakshatra. This is even more so if you already have planets in Satabhisha and Saturn is going to be conjoining them, right? But then, of course, you have to look at individual horoscopes to see all the different nuances of what areas of life are going to be impacted overall. But also something that I think I mentioned it a little bit at the beginning, but I want to kind of expand it a little bit, is that I have noticed so much of people questioning their careers during this transit, which makes sense because Saturn is career, it's social status, it's your professional trajectory, and it makes sense, it makes sense. Of course, it will be different things for different people, like I mentioned, but as a general trend, because Saturn itself stands for career, social, duty, karma, all this stuff, falling in Satabhisha Nakshatra, it's going to be like a general trend for humanity, basically, to rethink their careers, to rethink jobs in general, and rethink what makes them happy in work, whether they're satisfied in their work lives at all. And unfortunately, again, because of the theme of suffering inherent in Satabhisha Nakshatra, it will be a really painful circumstance that pushes them to think about this, that pushes them to rethink and hopefully take action in a different direction because of the suffering that they will be placed in, So basically, it's like Saturn is going to squeeze us with the door with this transit to basically kind of put people in a position of thinking about how much shit are they willing to take, really, to pursue a certain career path, to continue on the path that they are already on, you know? So it's a situation where you will be made to feel uncomfortable in order for you to rethink your approach towards a particular field in your life, especially when it comes to career, like I said, collectively. On an individual plane, as usual, you have to look to the individual horoscope and all the different configurations going on there. I've just given you some general guidelines for, you know, placements of Saturn based on ascendant or moon sign. Okay? So this has been it. I would love to hear your feedback. Of course, tell me what resonated, what didn't resonate. It would really help also my research and everyone else, all the other viewers. Of course, it would really help if you share your experiences. I would love to hear you in the comment section. And thank you once again for listening. And please subscribe if you haven't done so already. Click on the notifications bell if you want to see when I will post a new video. Also, if you're interested in the membership section, you can see the introductory part of this video where I talk in depth about each membership tier and what it entails. The short of it is that there are members-only videos on each tier, and you can see the prices if you click on the join button under any of my videos. You will see the prices in your local currency. So if you're interested in memberships, it would really help me, and also thank you very much to everyone else who has already purchased a membership. It really helps a lot. And aside from that, if you would like to get a personal consultation, again, you will find my email address in the video description. You can email me for a list of reading options and a pricing list and all the other details that you might be interested in. And last but not least, I do have a tarot channel as well, which I will be linking in the video description. If you are interested in tarot, go ahead and check it out. Maybe subscribe to that channel. I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you at my next video on this channel. Bye.